Hello, I wanted to make a video today, kind of talk about Ron Paul supporters and how crazy they are. I have to make a correction on an earlier video. I had talked about delegates, and actually this year's extra different because of a lot of states moving when they're going to have their primaries and caucuses. The RNC handed out some penalties, so some states are not going to have so many delegates as they normally would have. For example, normally New Hampshire would hand out 24, but instead they're only going to hand out 12. And so the total number of delegates you need to secure the nomination is 1,150. So I was wrong about that. I hadn't done my due diligence to find out all the delegates that were required to secure the nomination. Back to what I wanted to talk about in this video is how crazy Ron Paul supporters are, or the myth that Ron Paul supporters are crazy. Out of every political supporter I've ever come across, Ron Paul supporters are the most informed, and they're usually the most rational, and it's very interesting. They understand the concept of free market and how to make their voice heard through whatever means possible. And sometimes people find this very intimidating, so they make them out to be crazy people. And one of the interesting things, a story that just came out, a guy told his friends and basically said, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to dress up like the Ku Klux Klan, go to a Ron Paul rally, pretend to hold Ron Paul signs, and then make sure the news media gets pictures of it. And, that's a pretty scandalous thing to do, and pretending to be the Ku Klux Klan, one of the most hated organizations and racially divisive and just really awful parts of American history, to pretend to do that at a political rally is pretty awful. You don't even see people joke about that and dress up like Ku Klux Klan for Halloween because it's so awful. But so this guy says that he's going to do this, and then basically a lot of Ron Paul supporters get mad at him and communicate with him, and he's like, oh, they threatened me and they're going to kill me and I'm fearful for my life. And I'm just not buying it. I've looked at a couple different articles, and what's funny is every one of the articles I looked at basically said, well, this guy was thinking about supporting Ron Paul until the supporters did this. This guy wasn't thinking about supporting Ron Paul. He was going to dress up like the Ku Klux Klan to discredit Ron Paul. And now he's doing the same thing. He's discrediting Ron Paul supporters because he's acting fearful. So we're supposed to believe this guy that he's fearful for his life, and he's not doing that to discredit Ron Paul and Ron Paul supporters, but we weren't supposed to take him seriously when he dresses up like the Ku Klux Klan. So I'm just not buying it. It just seems so fake to me. And, I talked to some people, like I was talking to an Obama supporter the other day, and they're like, oh, Ron Paul's so old. And I was like, yeah, he is. He'd be the oldest president ever elected. And I was like, how old do you think he is? And he's like, oh, I don't know. He's maybe like 85. 85. Well, actually, Ron Paul is 76, and he's going to have his birthday before the election. So he's going to be 77 if he was elected. And, I said, well, how old is Obama? And he goes, oh, I think he's maybe 42. And I laughed. I was like, you don't even know how old your guy is. Obama will turn 51 on his next birthday. And the guy was like, oh, I guess, because he was young, and, 50 seems really old to this guy because he's in his 30s. And so he just assumed Obama's like in his 40s. And Ron Paul supporters, they know about their candidate and they know about the issues. They're not crazy people. They're moms and dads and hardworking guys. If you watch any of the Huckabee Forum, the people coming up asking Ron Paul questions and trying to understand where the other candidates fall on issues, They were not crazy people. They were asking the best questions out of any of the people at the debate. They weren't asking like pandering questions. They were asking, what are you going to do about the Federal Reserve? What are you going to do about these things that affect my day-to-day life, that affect my money? What are you going to do about the size of government? And it's so funny. They try to paint Ron Paul supporters like crazy people, and they're not, because they can't attack Ron Paul. So they want to make people feel bad, like, well, if you support Ron Paul, you're going to fall in with those crazies. And it's just simply not the case. And I think the more that myself as a Ron Paul supporter, I talk to people and articulate and listen to people, because I love to talk politics. I love to listen to other points of view, even if I disagree with them. The more that we engage and the more we do that, the more we prove the stereotypes false. That the people that support Ron Paul came to that decision usually after much research. They didn't hear one speech by Ron Paul and think like, oh, this is the guy I'm going to agree with for the rest of my life. No, they looked at his stance, what he said, and they began to realize, man, this guy's been saying the same thing, and he's been right about a bunch of things. So that's my take on the Ron Paul supporter myth. And yeah, thanks. We're gonna vote for Ron Paul, aren't we? All right.